I'm the founder of Finflux. Finflux is a lending platform basically used by about about 100 odd financial institute. Right now, like cumulatively, we're serving about 25 million end borrowers. And about a year back, my company got acquired by M2P Fintech. I mean, that's how, like, right, I'm part of M2P Fintech now. I mean, I never made a presentation in my life, actually. Like, no. I mean, I built a company, but I never made a presentation. I sold it. Even till, like, selling it, I never, like... so, in fact, I mean, like, last year, I had a term sheet from, like, 3 companies. Like, everybody was asking, like, hey, can you share your pitch deck? I mean, I said, what is that, right? I mean, like, I don't have one. You want to know anything about my company? Just go and see, visit my website. You want to know about my financials? Go to the ROC and, like, pull balance sheet. I mean, like, right? So Finflux was completely bootstrapped. In the first part of Finflux, like whatever I did, we made it open source. Apache Foundation adapted that project under the name Finaract. That is the most popular lending open source tech available on the internet. So today I'm not going to like talk about the typical SaaS metrics, the terms like CAC, MRR, ARR, right? I mean, I never understood, and I'm not going to talk about that. I mean, if you want to know about those things, you can always go to Google and you can figure it out. There are like tons of information about all those matrices. I'm going to talk about what worked for me, right? I mean, like I had built a SaaS business, B2B SaaS business, and what worked well for me, like what mattered to me or what mattered to my startup. That I'm going to talk about. Definitely not the typical matrices. So before I talk about what mattered or what matters, I just want to understand. So like, why there is so much importance to SaaS, right? I mean, like software, like see, as a human being, we started building softwares maybe about 50, 60 years back, or maybe like, right? But what is so important about the SaaS? I mean, if anybody like want to talk about, I mean, this is a question to, if anybody is interested to answer this question, what is so importance or significance of software as a service? Yeah, subscription, repeatability. Any other? Why not focus on software? Why focus is on software as a service? Sorry? Yeah, specialization is one. Subscription, repeatability. Low cost for what? I mean, like to the user or to the builder or seller? To the user, you're saying it is a low cost. Definitely. Yeah, of course. I mean, like it significantly reduces the cost of managing, right? So SaaS is one of the business. As you scale, the cost of offering the services doesn't increase significantly. It is like insignificant. I'll just give one example, right? Assume that you are running a restaurant, and as the number of customers walking into your restaurant increases, your cost of serving will definitely increase. Let's say you're running an airlines, right? If the number of people, your customer increases, the cost to like offer a service, let's say you're offering a service to like, say, taking a person from Mumbai to Bangalore or Bangalore to Mumbai, whether you're serving 1 million or 10 million, the margin is not going to significantly change, right? But in SaaS, if I build it for somebody, I want to replicate and offer a similar service in a SaaS model. I mean, out of thin air, I can just create it, right? Because software replication, I mean, I don't want to get into the technical words, like it's whether it's multi-tenant, whether it is whatever, right? I mean, like I don't want to get into that, but I'm saying, in a very layman's language, replicating software, you can really replicate it at zero cost, right? So again, one more question. In a traditional business, can you think of any other traditional business before SaaS which has the similar advantage? for example, you take a restaurant. I mean, I don't really see that advantage. Let's say your let's say your take a Parle-G biscuit, right? Like, by scaling, do you think that can you significantly reduce the manufacturing cost or a distribution cost? No, right? Or take airlines. But in a traditional business, can you think of any other business which has an advantage of SaaS? Similar, like the economics. Fantastic answer, right? So look at movie, right? In movie making, once you make a movie, like, I mean, it doesn't matter how many people view, your cost of service is significantly lower. Because the cost of making movie might be like 100 crore, 50 crore, right, whatever, right? But distributing it, right, if whether it is viewed by 1 million people, 10 million people, or 100 million people, the cost of serving will not significantly increases. That is where the beauty, right? Like if movie is a hit, you make, like the producers or whoever is involved, they'll all make a tons of money. Like SaaS is like that, right? It's either hit or miss. If you hit, you make a significant. That is the reason, like I think Bala was saying, like he said, right? There's an anomaly in the unicorns, right? Only 10% of the SaaS companies are. So I mean, among all the startups, there are only 10% are SaaS, but in the unicorn, they're like 20%, right? How is that? Because of the margin, right? The gross margin, what you get in the SaaS business. So that is the reason, like everybody wants to build a SaaS, right? I mean, like so. Any question? I mean, like, I want to make it more interactive. If you have any question, feel free to ask me. Otherwise, I'll just keep talking about what mattered in building FinFlux and what is mattering scaling M2P, right? So I'm going to talk about that. Yeah, please. Yeah, of course. I mean, like, I'll start with gross margin only. Like why eventually? I mean, like let's. I mean, I'll just give a quick a knowledge about the financial accounting, right? So, the way financial accounting is done for a traditional businesses versus how it is done for a SaaS, there is a difference. If you're building a SaaS company, right? You're a part of a SaaS company. Like, what you need to understand is that there is something called a cost of goods sold, right? So for all the traditional businesses, it is pretty easy to arrive at what is the cost of goods sold. But in a SaaS for a SaaS product, the cost of building product is only once, right? But replicating it to hundreds of thousands of businesses or users is literally like zero, right? Only the cost of servicing is, let's say, your AWS bill, or if you're engaging a high-touch service where like people are involved in servicing L1, L2, right? So those are the typical cost of service. So your engineering cost usually doesn't come under cost of goods sold, right? So that's basically it is because that cost is not really an expense, right? You're building an asset for the company, and that asset you keep on renting it to hundreds and thousands of users without any additional cost, right? So that's where, I mean, that is one of the key element of when you're doing bookkeeping for a SaaS company. Just be aware of. If you just Google for like how do I do a bookkeeping for a SaaS company, I think there are a lot of good articles you can, right? You can learn in detail. So what mattered or what is going to matter while scaling M2P or while building FinFlux is that the first part is building the product, right? So when you're saying building the product, so there are two aspects. So one is the product management, identifying the right product and building it in the right manner. So that is the product management point of view. Then the second is the engineering aspect, right? So once you decide that, hey, what is the product I want to build, why I want to build, how I want to build, then actually getting it built through the engineering effort. Then once you build, then how are you going to sell it, right? So I mean, ultimately, like when you say build, you're a creator, right? The ultimate purpose for any creator is that, like, what is the ultimate purpose for a singer? Like, the singer's wish is that the song, whatever the singer has sung, like millions of people should hear, right? Or let's say, what is the ultimate wish of a chef, right? Whatever he or she has cooked, somebody should enjoy that food, right? So similarly, like when you're creating a product, the ultimate purpose of that product is that it should get used by someone, right? And if it is bringing value to their life, they will pay in return what they pay is an exchange of value, right? So once you build, then build to sell. So typically like pretty standard questions are asked, right? Like, hey, are you a sales-driven company, or are you a product-led, right? So in my view, life is gray, right? It is not neither white or neither black. Neither it is 0 or 1. Life is between 0 or 1. Life is between white and black. When you like in the beginning of your journey, it's always going to be a high touch, right? Like say when you build, there is no user, no references, there is no proof that this product really works, this product can really bring a value. So during that journey, I think Gaurav was talking about, right? Like the founder is available at your service 24/7, right? That is a high touch. That is a sales-driven approach. Then eventually, eventually as your product keep evolving, right? So how do you move from a sales-driven to a market and product-driven, right? But again, the sweet spot is between product-led and sales-led. There are very few products or businesses in this world where like they're either only sales or only marketing, right? But otherwise, majority fall under the mix of sales and marketing. So, my learning is that don't go by what, like the tons of knowledge, what you get it. Go by what works, right? When you are on the ground, you are the best person to judge, hey, should I do what is working for you? Figure it out, keep focusing on that, right? So whether it's a market-driven, whether it's a product-led, whether it is a sales-led, it doesn't matter. As long as you're able to sell, as long as you're able to make money, just keep doing it, right? So don't get biased by, oh, I need to be a product-led, I need to be a market-led, right? Marketing is what? Like marketing is selling at scale. So I was talking about like, there are very few companies who are like pure sales, right? For example, let's take Boeing, right? Or Airbus. You never see them marketing. You never see a ad in IPL like, like how Boeing is making a world-class aircraft, right? So Boeing aircraft, they're a purely sales-led business, right? Similarly, like let's say Thumbs Up, Coca-Cola, like no sales guy will come and knock your door, hey, do you want to buy a Coca-Cola, right? This is Coca-Cola's Pepsi. They're purely a marketing-led, right? The sales happen, there is a sales channel, but that is more for a distribution. Not really to like go and knock the end consumer. But otherwise, majority of the businesses lies between sales and marketing. So I'll talk about all the building blocks, and then I'll connect how each of the building blocks interact with each of these building blocks, right? And then what are the key matrices we started measuring or started making it improving it. So I spoke about building, then I spoke about selling, right? The moment you sell, because I had built an enterprise SaaS, then there is a significant effort of onboarding the customer, right? Unlike B2C, you click of 2 buttons, you're onboarded, right? But you build a software for enterprises and you make it SaaS, then like there is a significant effort, time involved in onboarding them on your platform, right? So we built the product, we sold the product, we onboarded the customer, right? Or we onboarded the user. Suppose that you start serving them, right? So if you look at the entire life cycle, build, sell, onboard, and service, right? So you keep repeating it. So when you keep repeating it, how each of these teams or units interacted with each other, how they started giving feedback to each of them, then how did we make it better. So again, I'll start from build, right? So build to sales, like when you're selling a product, so there are 4 or 5 key important indicator that matters. So one is whether the product is a right fit. That is the number one. Just because a product is a right fit for any organization, no organization is going to buy your product. So product should work for their needs, number one. Then if there are any reference check, what market is talking about your product, there should not be any negative review, right? So that matters. It could be through a market feedback, or it could be a client reference check, right? And then the pricing. You need to get a right pricing. And then if it is a sales-led, if there is a human involved, right? Then how does the sales guy is engaging the entire sales process, right? I mean, these are the 4 elements what matters most. So whenever, what we did, right? Like whenever a sale happened, like we got an opportunity, whether you lost the deal or whether you won the deal, we used to measure how this 4 indicator influence the decision. Hey, they bought our product because product was excellent, right? We lost the deal because our price was high, right? Or we lost the deal because of combination of that. So these are the 4 most important indicators we kept on measuring for every sales deal. And then they started becoming a feedback. If we are losing a deal because of product, then the feedback will go to the product team. Hey, look, we lost the deal because of A, B, C, D reason, right? Even if we win a deal, we for every deal we started measuring. It doesn't matter whether you have won the deal or whether you lost the deal. Even if you win, you need to know why did we were able to sell. And in some of the cases, there is no competitor, right? So that is also another reason. So the buyer did not have a choice, right? So if you are getting surprised, how is that possible? Because the buyer had not done enough research in the market that hey, there are like competitors, right? I mean, so this is about the sell part, right? Then we come to onboarding. So in onboarding, again, what kind of onboarding experience you want to provide to the business or end user? That is one key indicator. The another key indicator was how quickly you are able to onboard. Because if you're building a B2B SaaS, again, let's say if there is a human element involved in onboarding, there is a human touch in the onboarding, then that becomes pretty soon that will become a bottleneck, right? So then your product process has to continuously keep addressing, monitoring, hey, what are the challenges in onboarding? How quickly I'm able to onboard? And what is the experience I provided to my end customer during onboarding? So again, the feedback will go back to the product, right? Product as well as to the sales, like what did you promise as part of the sales process? But majority of the feedback again goes back to the product. Then I spoke about product, building the product, selling the product, right? Onboarding the customer, then servicing the customer, right? So again, one of the key indicator what we measured is that how often a user or a business reach out to us for a support, right? And very proactively we were addressing those supports, but that again went back as a feedback to product, like why even customers or users are reaching out to support, right? Of course, there is a scope for us to improve the product, right? So, like collectively, like these are the like key indicators or a parameter, like we kept monitoring and kept on improving, right? And in my journey of building Finflux, majority part, like whatever we built, we made it open source. There was no business model and all. But only in 2019, like I decided that I want to like fork out and make an enterprise version, start selling it, right? Between 2019 to 2001, we were able to like onboard dozens of financial institutes in 2.5 years from a zero customers on our platform to like we scaled to nearly about 25 million end borrowers on our platform, right? So we really did not bothered about any of the matrices what is thought in most of the websites. Like basically like these are the like internal indicators what we like very religiously, like we believed in it and we very religiously kept on monitoring and improving it. And I mean, this is what worked well. And then also like, since I had a bit of a financial accounting background, like I kept on working on like, how do we keep a tab on your gross margin? If you're building a SaaS product, SaaS business, if your gross margin is not more than 80%, it doesn't make any sense, right? Because as you scale, I mean, the gross margin eventually will add up to your net and you'll have a significant net margin at scale. Any questions? Please. Yeah, please.
Hello? Hello? Yeah. So you told many factors which led your growth. What worked best in your journey? Means one inspiring story can you tell that worked extremely well in the converting the opportunities or sale?
Yeah. If you heard like what Gaurav was speaking in the previous to previous session, right? I mean, I literally have done all those mistakes, right? I mean, if you ask me what has not worked well, I mean, like I have like hundreds of things what has not really worked well. A couple of things which have worked well. I don't know if G2 guys are here. Like one of the good thing I did is like my company was completely bootstrapped, right? I mean, hardly any money to like. I mean, always you're looking at how can I do it without any cost. Anything which is available free, like I mean, only investment is your time, right? So one thing which really worked well for me is like G2, right? So I got listed our product on G2. I very religiously I'd ensure that for every successful onboard, like after post onboarding, if I used to ask one question, how was the experience? Were they happy? If they're happy, just take them to G2 and get the review done. If they're not happy, then I used to say, okay, don't. I mean, like I don't want to like go and like spoil my product reputation. So someone like that worked well, and we kept on investing on G2, and then we kept on getting a lot of inbound enquiries through G2. I mean, that one other thing that really worked well for us. And so a lot of our international clients, so G2 is, it's not so popular in India, but at least in US and then a couple of other countries, G2 is one of the like gold standard. Like when somebody is buying enterprise software, they go to G2 and make a comparison and then they send an inquiry. So that worked really well. But we truly believed, because we had an option to like get listed on Capterra, then Gartner, Software Suggest. But since it's a bootstrap company, we did not have a bandwidth, feasibility to list on everything and ensure that you get a good feedback or a review written on everything. So like, why did G2? I mean, like, I don't have an answer. It is just, I mean, there is no logic. I mean, we just did a bit of a basic common sense, right? I mean, like, hey, what is the traffic you get on G2? How actively, like, each of these platforms are performing, like, bit of a common test, and then we felt it is either Capterra or G2. Then, with limited resources, we said, okay, let's focus on listing our product on G2 and religiously get a good review on it. Yeah, please.
Yeah, my name is Prashant. Thank you for the session. It's very informative. My question is about prioritizing the features, especially when you start losing the deals. So to give you context, we're building an enterprise SaaS for virtual events called AirMeet. And the biggest challenge that we have had in the journey of product building is, you start losing a lot of deals, and the feedback from customer is for specific features, or they're looking for certain things, and all enterprises have different requirements, right? So I want to hear, how did you tackle this, and what's your perspective on that?
Yeah. So that is the one, I would say broadly, nobody has gracefully solved, right? Today, if you see, are there any, in the enterprise SaaS, there are very few players were able to crack it. Like one, I'm really huge fan of Slack and HubSpot, right? So at least when you're building in the beginning, right? So look at, let's say if it is either whether it is a new segment or you're trying to reinvent in the existing segment, right? So that is the first question. If you're trying to reinvent in the existing system, then it's pretty difficult to compete with the guys who are there in the market like much before you in terms of feature parity, right? So those guys will always have like miles of ahead in terms of feature parity. But what my suggestion is that look at what are the pain points, right? Like key pain points. Then if my product is able to solve the key pain points, that is number one. That is the most important in sales. And second thing is that can they, with the existing setup, can they, or can your platform deliver a value? And eventually, like the additional features, can we like keep building it, right? Say maybe like quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3. And also like another thing is that one of the good thing, at least what worked, right? I mean, like when you're building a product, don't say yes to everybody, right? If there is if the feature gap is like significant, then either they're not meant for you or you are not meant for them, right? This is not the right time. So then, again, question arises, then if we start saying no to everybody, like how are we going to build a business, right? Then you have to look at the market width and breadth. Ensure that you're visible to a lot of people. Ensure that you do a good marketing, get enough leads so that you have a freedom to say no to misfits. If you don't generate enough leads, right? If you don't build a good top of your funnel, then you will be under a tremendous pressure to convert every possible deal. But if you have 100, then you'll say, then you have freedom to say no to misfit. But your opportunity is only like 3, 4. Then what happens? Then you are under tremendous pressure to know how do I convert these, right? Your expectation of conversion rate is 100%, right? In that case, you have to say yes to everything. But if you are able to flip it and see that, hey, can I generate 100 leads, and then I'll take, my conversion is only 10%, I'll only get the right fit. Yeah. Any further questions? How about time? Around. Yeah. If any questions, yeah, please.
How would you decide to scale the sales team? Because I think considering sales cycles and enterprise sales structure also, right?
Yeah.
So, I think sales team is one aspect, right?
Yeah.
But we'll be juggling a lot of other aspects, right? Should we invest in maybe sales or maybe invest in something else, innovation? All those, right? So what is your guidance towards it? Thank you.
So when I was running FinFlux, which was completely bootstrapped, I did not have a luxury to hire a sales guys. It was all it was a typical marketing led, right? And then me and my other co-founder used to do sales. But then when we got acquired by M2P, right? Then we were able to inorganically grow the business, right? So then that's the first time I got an exposure to a sales, right? So one of the key advantage of having a business development or a sales is that they fetch a premium for your product. If you are a marketing-led, product-led, you will not be able to get a premium for your product, right? And also it is pretty difficult to crack the enterprise clients, right? So if again, one more thing what I learned is that if you're going behind the small and mid-size client base in the beginning, then eventually you will have a setup where you can build a setup where you can service the entire spectrum. From small, mid, you can go to enterprise. But from day one, if you start serving enterprise, then no way you will be able to come back and service the small and mid. This is I had heard. I mean, I don't know how much is the truth, but I mean, in early days of Razorpay, they had an option to work with Flipkart, and they said no. Right? This is what I had read. I mean, but I don't know the authenticity of this fact. But the logic was that if you start working for a larger enterprise, then eventually you'll not be able to focus on the product. What you'll end up becoming a vertically integrated or in-house tech team for them, right? So you need to be like quite you need to have that conviction to say no to such a large business opportunity.
Hello. So your growth is predominantly on the enterprise side, right?
So I take care of the lending because the startup Finflux is a lending stack, right? End to end, loan origination, underwriting, loan servicing, collection. So at M2P also I take care of the lending. So in the lending also there are small lenders, mid-size, right? NBFCs, small finance banks, PSUs, right? And then large private sector. So there is that spectrum. Like you see in any business, I mean, more or less you will see that small, mid-size and enterprise.
Yeah. So M2P FinTech is enterprise sales, and you do on the kind of a mid and small side.
Yeah. So when I started the Finflux product, we focused on small and medium, like lending fintechs, NBFCs, right? Again, in the NBFC, like small and mid-size NBFCs. About a year back, we started working with banks, some of the largest NBFCs.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, what I was saying previously, right? I mean, if you start working with small and mid-size segment, then eventually you'll be able to service the enterprise one. But day one, if you start enterprise, then after some time, if you think that, I want to go to the mid and small, pretty difficult. I mean,
okay.
I'm not saying impossible, but at least I've not seen anybody who were able to go in that order. You want to cover the entire spectrum, then the right way is to start with small and medium.
Okay.
Just sharing a thought on that based on what I've experienced and seen. So the way what I've seen is people normally would tag, if you think of an enterprise, you will think of an ACV of a certain kind, and you will link it to the cost of acquiring and servicing that customer, and the mode of acquisition is typically a more direct. Versus when you're doing a lot more SME, you'll intend to do it because the ACVs are so small, you can't fund it through a people-based sales and marketing motion. Of course, the sales cycles are also longer versus shorter. Yeah. So now that to your point earlier about how to define between the two and choose between investing into sales and marketing versus the R&D, you can play with that as one. So as long as your AICV, which is first year's revenue, is equivalent to your CAC, you can play between large or small, whichever way.
Correct.
And the other point I've seen some of the enterprise trying to go down is more like, think about most enterprises also have to go through a POC process.
Yes.
Now, either you keep doing POCs for your customers, or you create a light product for yourself, which serves both as an POC for your enterprise customers. But at the same time, if it is a DIY without any sales-based process of sale, people have tried that and some have seen success. But that's about going from enterprise to lower ones. But sorry, just
certainly, definitely. And also since you brought a point about POC, right? And then in the previous session also some gentleman was asking about a question about POC, right? I just wanted to add 2 points to that. Like one, Gaurav was saying that never do free POCs, right? I mean, like ensure that it should be a paid POC. Like the amount doesn't matter, but it will ensure that like the other party is also serious. Along with that, I just wanted to add 2 more points, right, which had worked well, because since the product what I had built is also B2B, so more often you'll come across the POC aspect, right? So ensure that you ask the buyer, what is the success criteria for this POC, right? What do you call as a failure and what do you call as a success, right? And what is it, and make it time bound. And also the third aspect is that ensure that who are the decision makers, right? If you get these 3 things apart along with the money, I mean, that is the right way of looking at the getting the POC to get eventually converted into a sale. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Nayan, for sharing your story and so candidly sharing everything that you've gone through. Folks, you can catch up with Nayan after this. For the last session today, we have Kiran from Kalari Capital. So Kiran is the partner at Kalari Capital, and before this, he has spent over a decade at Paytm. So today, he's going to talk to us about the toolkit that SaaS founders should have, and especially looking beyond the 0 to 1 sales, right? So welcome, Kiran, on board. I'll just